This bike has left me stranded.
I don't know what happened.
It's overheated on the trail. The controls have failed. The screen has randomly gone blank on me. Somehow, this is still my favorite adventure bike. So for decades, Harley riders were measured by how many chrome accessories they had. And then somebody in Milwaukee apparently drank like 3 energy drinks and said, let's build a dirt bike. Now, by now, most everyone has seen spec sheets on a Harley Pan America, but this wouldn't be a proper review video if I didn't at least throw up some of the most important specs related to the bike I'm reviewing. So if you're already familiar with this information, give me a minute. I promise I'll get to my real world experience with the bike. But if this is your first time watching a Pan Am review video, here's the information that you need to know. The Pan America produces a whopping 150 horsepower, and it delivers an impressive 92 foot-pounds of torque. 150 horsepower is a fantastic idea if you ever thought, you know what this gravel road needs? More bad decisions. Now, Harley-Davidson claims the bike weighs in at 559 pounds, but my experience has been it's closer to 600 when it's full of fuel. And speaking of fuel, the Pan America boasts a 5.6 gallon fuel tank, and it produces really impressive travel range. I get between 220 and 250 miles out of a tank of fuel on this bike. Now, the seat offers 2 positions for you to choose from. The lower seat position is like 31.1 inches, while the high position is 32 even. And if you're a shorter rider and you need a little bit of help putting your feet down, the Pan America Special features an adaptive ride height system, and it will actually lower automatically when the bike comes to a stop. So with the seat in the low position and the adaptive ride height system, you can actually get down to 29.4 inches. And that's a real benefit for you shorter riders out there. Now, the Pan America also has a wheelbase of 62.2 inches. Now, the wheelbase is an important measurement because it determines how your bike's going to handle in different riding situations and the different terrain you're on. Here are the basics of wheelbase measurements if you're not familiar. The shorter the wheelbase, the more nimble the bike will feel in tight technical terrain. So just for a comparison, the BMW 1300 and the KTM 890 both have a wheelbase right around that 60-inch mark. And those bikes are probably going to feel just a little more nimble in tight terrain. But having a longer wheelbase has its perks as well. A longer wheelbase means the bike provides a planted and like a predictable ride at highway speeds, even over, choppier terrain. And the longer chassis also reduces load transfer during your hard braking and your hard acceleration. This means it's generally easier to maintain traction, but it's harder to get the front wheel off the ground when you want to. It should also be noted that a longer wheelbase offers a more comfortable standing position since there's a lot more cockpit room for the rider. So there are your important specs on the Pan America, and if you're considering the Pan Am as an adventure bike, you should be familiar with these details by now. So let's talk about some of the things that Harley got right with this bike. All right, first things first, let's talk about weight distribution. Look, the Pan America isn't a light bike. In fact, if you drop it on a hill, you'll suddenly become very interested in strength training. But Harley hid the weight really well. Let's be honest, it's a 600-pound adventure bike. Okay, and when you need to pick this bike up, you're definitely going to realize it's heavy. However, when the bike is in motion, it's surprisingly nimble for its size, and it's very well balanced. I ride my Pan America very aggressively. In fact, I take that bike places that Harley never intended it to go. Now, I can tell you from experience that this bike is capable of much more than the average rider will ever experience. It's like having a friend who weighs 300 pounds but somehow dances like a ballerina. Another thing that Harley nailed is the power delivery. The Pan America comes with several ride modes that adjust the throttle response, the suspension, and traction control. In my opinion, these ride modes are fantastic. You just have to know how to use them correctly. Now, generally, I use two main ride modes. The first is the Sport mode. Sport mode opens up the throttle response and it stiffens the suspension for aggressive on-road riding. It's my go-to when I'm going to spend any time on the pavement. And I found that the Revolution Max engine, it actually has two very distinct personalities, okay? Like below 5,000 RPMs, it's like your responsible adult friend. But above 5,000 RPMs, it's kind of like that friend who says, you know what'd be fun? And when I'm riding off-road, I almost always use the off-road plus mapping. That setting, it maximizes your suspension travel and reduces the ABS or traction control to its lowest settings without completely turning those features off. And for like very loose rock hill climbs, I'm gonna go ahead and turn my traction control off as well, just so I can get some wheel spin when climbing. But understanding how to use these settings is the key to enjoying your Pan America and finding success in various types of terrain. Overall, the power delivery on the Pan Am is a highlight for me. It provides a thrill, and I just haven't found that with any other full-size adventure bike. Number 3 on the list of things that Harley got right is the bike's touring capability. To put it plainly, this bike is an absolute beast on the road. It has power for days, and the longer wheelbase provides comfort for those really long, hard days of travel. And the fuel range is impressive. You can go a long way on a tank of fuel. Like 2 years ago, my dad and I completed an Iron Butt challenge. It's where you have to complete like 1,000 miles in 24 hours. So we did 1,000 miles, and we did it in about 16 hours. It was difficult to put that many miles down in 16 hours for sure, but the Pan America handled it flawlessly. As a matter of fact, when I came home from that tour, I immediately sold my street bike because I just realized I no longer needed the bike. The Pan America was superior in almost every way to my street glide. It was more capable, more powerful. It had better fuel range. It was way more capable in different riding conditions. And honestly, man, I've spent enough hours on this bike that I should probably start paying it rent. But most of my time on the Pan America has actually been spent off-road. And in my opinion, that's the fourth thing that Harley got right with this bike. Most Pan Americas, they spend their life commuting to Starbucks. Mine occasionally gets lost in the woods and it makes very poor life choices. If you follow any of my adventures on the Pan Am, you already know that I push this bike to its limits. I'm talking rock gardens, mud pits, hill climbs. Heck, I even motocross this thing when I'm looking to draw a crowd at the local track, right? I ride it on BDRs, I take it to adventure rallies, I train at local OHV parks, and I even occasionally find myself on a single track course just to prove that this bike can do it. And I know it's not a popular opinion with other YouTubers, but I think the Pan America is a great off-road machine, and it handles most types of terrain really, really well. The only exception that I found is very wet, muddy conditions. But honestly, show me a 600-pound adventure bike that does well in those conditions, because they just don't exist. For everything else, this bike gets it done. And it keeps me smiling the whole time. All right, so that's the good, what Harley did right. But this bike does have some stuff, man, that just drives me crazy. So let's talk about my relationship issues. First, this bike is prone to fuel pump failure, and nothing says adventure quite like wondering whether you're about to become a temporary resident of wherever you just broke down. So I was on the Chattahoochee BDRX last year. My bike started making this horrible whining sound when I turned on the ignition. And a quick Google search revealed the reason. Evidently, there's some known issue with the fuel pump failing on these Pan Americas. And that whining sound was like a warning indicator that it's happening to me. Now, the fuel pump didn't just instantly quit, but I noticed that as I continued on the trip, the noise got worse and worse. And my bike did unexpectedly die a few times while I was on the trail. So needless to say, when I got home, my first call was to the Harley dealership. Now, fortunately, it was covered under my extended service plan. But seriously, there should have been a recall on this. I remain extremely disappointed that Harley has not owned this design flaw and just made it right for their customers. Evidently, they redesigned their fuel tanks to reduce the fuel pump failure for models after the 2022 or 23. But man, the verdict is still out on how effective that new design is. So my advice is to proceed with caution. I simply wouldn't own one of these bikes without an ESP. So the second strain on our relationship came when my right-hand control module just failed. Now, this was more of a catastrophic failure, and actually it did leave me stranded. But the fortunate part was it was at the end of a rally, and I was just able to kind of push it up onto my trailer, take it home. And again, my Harley dealership was the first place I went, and I was told that's another known issue with this bike. You know, we throw right-hand control modules, they go bad, and the ESP again came in and covered the repair. But come on, Harley, you gotta recall this stuff and help build back some confidence from your buyers. Now, the next issue that drives me crazy, I still haven't got an answer on this thing. Like, is this random? Maybe I'm the only person this happens to, but like there's this random TFT blackout that happens. And I've searched high and low on the internet for an explanation, but I haven't really gotten a straight answer. Like, what is happening? For seemingly no reason at all, my TFT will just go black. One moment, I'm just navigating along, riding, and then the next moment I'm staring at this super expensive black rectangle in front of me. And I don't know how fast I'm going, what ride mode I'm in. Now, in fairness, after a few minutes, I can turn the bike off, back on, and most of the time it'll correct the issue. But why? It's just another strain on my relationship with this machine. But the final issue that I'm constantly fighting on this bike is mud and overheating. Honestly, I chalk this one up to just poor engineering. The RevMax Motor is naturally a hot engine. It runs regularly around 225 degrees. And that's when the bike is perfectly clean and I'm riding on pavement. But when you take this bike off-road, there are considerable complications with heat. Now, apparently, Harley engineers assumed that adventure bike riders would try to avoid mud at all costs. And yeah, that was optimistic. The radiator is located directly behind the front tire. So every bit of mud, every bit of debris gets thrown directly onto it. And then it dries. And it just fills in every crack in that radiator and it prevents airflow. So like I said, it is a poor design. And in fairness, this bike doesn't overheat because it's broken. It overheats because I'm treating the thing like a submarine. This isn't a huge deal when you're riding out of a base camp and you can clean your radiator every day. But man, if you're traveling with this bike for distance and you're doing off-road as part of the ride, this can be a real problem. And I've ridden up to complete strangers' houses and asked them, hey, can I use your water hose just to rinse off my radiator? So the real question everyone asks is this: is this bike reliable? And I want to answer this question honestly. Look, has my Pan America been flawless? Not even close. Has it stranded me? Yes, it has. Would I call it the most reliable adventure bike ever built? No. But reliability isn't the entire story. You see, adventure bikes, they aren't refrigerators. Nobody buys one because it quietly sits in the garage doing its job. Like, we buy them because they make us want to ride. And every time I open the garage door, this is the bike that I reach for. So after several years of owning and riding this bike, here's my final verdict on the Harley-Davidson Pan America. This is my satisfaction scorecard for the bike. It's based on 5 major categories that most riders care about. Each category is graded based on my experience, a 1-star being the poorest experience and 5-star being the best. All right, so let's start. Touring gets 5 stars. Power gets 5 stars. Comfort gets 5 stars. Reliability is going to come in a little bit lower, 3 stars. And I think I was generous in that. And fun factor, well, I'm aware that there's more than 5 stars, but I own the channel, so I can make the rules here. The Harley Pan America isn't perfect. It's frustrated me. It's broken. And it's occasionally tested my patience. But every adventure bike will ask you for a compromise. The Pan America just happens to make compromises I'm willing to live with. Because every time the trail gets rough, or the road gets twisty, or a new adventure appears on the horizon, this bike still makes me smile. And at the end of the day, that's the reason it's still sitting in my garage.